So, a new study says, and apparently it's the first comprehensive study of Ontario's congestion crisis in over 15 years, finds it costs us $56 billion every year. Now, notably, and we'll talk about this study was commissioned by the Residential and Civil Construction Alliance of Ontario and the Ontario Road Builders Association. It described traffic gridlock in the province as a crisis. Joining us now is Nadia Todorova, Executive Director at the Residential and Civil Construction Alliance of Ontario. Good morning. Nice to have you.
Good morning, John. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so give us, first of all, let's talk about methodology, I guess, because apparently this isn't just about whether you idle in traffic, waste time and gas that you're not working, but it's about the impact on your life. How do we put a price on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Congestion is something that impacts everyone to a certain extent, some more than others. I'm sure that a large percentage of your listeners are right now stuck somewhere on the road due to congestion.
It's good for
Uh,
listening.
so so we wanted to really quantify the impacts of congestion, but do it in a comprehensive and long-term sort of way. And we wanted to look at, again, not only the economic impacts of congestion, but also which are very critical, but also what is the value of congestion from a social standpoint, from a social impact standpoint. And when we talk about social impacts, we're talking about stress, we're talking about lower life satisfaction, we're talking about reduced well-being, extended commute times. And the logic that underpins the social value methodology, and the whole study was done by the Canadian Centre for Economic Analysis, CanSEA, and they do some incredible economic modeling. So the logic that underpins the social value methodology really aligns with the Green Book that's been used in the United Kingdom and with the OECD guidelines for estimating social value. So it really gives you a very comprehensive impact on congestion, again, both from an economic but from a social standpoint as well.
I'm still very curious, though, how you can put a price on, say, the level of anxiety you experience because you're stuck in traffic too much.
Well, essentially, people generally feel more satisfied with life when they earn more. There is a predictable relationship between income and life satisfaction. So when something lowers a person's satisfaction with life, we can think of it as similar to losing income. Just as a pay cut would reduce happiness, a drop in life satisfaction could be seen as a loss of financial value. And to make up for that loss, one would need to provide additional income to restore their satisfaction to previous levels. So that all kind of gets quantified by CanSEA in their economic analysis to come up with these staggering numbers that you see and that you quoted earlier in terms of the impact in Ontario on congestion, which is 56 billion, and then when we look at just the GTHA, we're looking at almost 45 billion dollars in impacts, and those numbers grow even further if we look at the long-term impacts of congestion in 2020 in 2044, which is a bit of a cautionary case and really shows the value for the case for action is very clear.
So, case for action, is the fix necessarily more roads?
Well, we always talk about investment in critical infrastructure, including transit and transportation. It is never a case of investing in one over the other. We need both. We need transit infrastructure. We need the Ontario line, but then we also need, transformative transportation projects, such as Highway 413, such as the Bradford bypass, such as the Morriston bypass out in Guelph. And I think that the study does a great job of showcasing that. And as you mentioned, this congestion is not just a transportation issue. It is a core economic and social problem that is deteriorating both business productivity and the quality of life. And it's also an issue that could spread to the rest of Ontario in the future, especially given the population projections that the province is going to be experiencing. It's estimated that the province is going to grow by 42% over the next 28 years. So that the fact that a growing province requires growing infrastructure is something that governments of all three levels need to keep in mind as they are focusing on their budgetary priorities.
Is it somewhat compromising at all that a study commissioned by people who build roads supports the case for building roads?
Well, again, we're not just talking about roads. We're talking about critical infrastructure across the gambit. So we're talking about transit. We're talking about making sure that we have the enabling infrastructure for housing. So we need the water and the wastewater. So it's really all a big package of infrastructure. Again, it's not just about roads. Roads are part of it, but again, as the report suggests, the issue is so large that we need to have different modes of priorities, not just roads, but also transit, again, housing enabling water infrastructure, and the gambit.
Thanks a lot for this.
Thank you very much, John. Have a good day.
Nadia Todorova is Executive Director at the Residential and Civil Construction Alliance of Ontario.